Meanwhile, in Beijing, the Chinese authorities stepped up security in the build-up to the 16th anniversary of those pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square. From Beijing, the BBC's Dan Griffiths reports.
Security was tight on this, the 16th anniversary of the suppression of the pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square. As usual, an honor guard raised the Chinese flag, a ceremony repeated daily here. But around the square, uniformed and plainclothes police kept watch for any sign of protest, and possible dissenters were kept under guard in their homes. Hundreds were killed when troops and tanks rolled into Beijing and seized control of the square. And for the Chinese Communist Party, that night is still an extremely sensitive issue, especially this year, with the death in January of the former leader Zhao Ziyang, who was ousted for sympathizing with the protesters. Tiananmen is still very much a live issue for those ordinary Chinese who witnessed or took part in the events then. Yet for the younger generation who are in their 20s, what happened in 1989 has much less significance. They were children at the time and have grown up in an age of rampant commercialism and economic growth. For them, the events that took place on this square belong to another era altogether. And that is exactly what the Chinese Communist Party wants, to consign Tiananmen to history. And as time passes, that is just what is happening. Daniel Griffiths, BBC News, Beijing.
Demanding democracy. Unbelievable. We all came here to cover a summit and we walked into a revolution.
We couldn't believe that the government tolerated this, that it had let it go on this far. They were being embarrassed. They were being humiliated on TV every night around the world, and they pulled the plug on it.
And now, as we report to our viewers around the world, martial law has been declared in Beijing.
On the afternoon of June 3rd, I mean, you could feel it. You could just feel things were going in a bad direction.
The assault on Tiananmen Square is now underway.
Late in that evening, the soldiers began to move in. I could see below me little bicycle carts where people who'd been shot were dumped in the back, and then the rider would pedal furiously, taking these victims off to hospitals. And as dawn broke, the People's Liberation Army was in full control of the square. The student movement had been crushed. It happened the day after, in the morning. A column of tanks had started to leave Tiananmen Square. Out of nowhere, this man in a white shirt ran in front of the tank. The tank stopped, and for a heart-stopping 4 or 5 minutes, there was this extraordinary drama. The big question was, what would happen? Would he be run over? Would they shoot him?